talk about how people ask me whether or not I'm moving to Norway or whether or not I live in Michigan, um, and questions about my cats, questions about those types of things. Um, Here's the deal. Um, Doing something like this is something that very few people do. It takes a lot of emotional strength. It takes a lot of courage to do things like that. Um, First off, the English language is a very poor language when it comes to describing feelings. There's too many words that have too many different meanings. Too many people associate different words with different meanings and that type of thing. Um, so then we have social media. People are allowed to say anything they like to on your pages. First off, I believe in complete rights for anyone to have the right to say anything they want to on their own page. Um, we shouldn't censor ourselves from writing things that we want to talk about for fear that it might cause someone else to have a problem with that. Because if that's the case, anyone can have a problem with anything, and therefore we shouldn't write anything. So that's obviously logically not possible. So I touched off a few people, 4 people, out of my 2,869 friends, 4 people, all of them very far left-wing people. I'm not sure if there's a connection or not. But I mentioned how I wanted people to stop asking me whether or not I'm moving to Norway or not, or whether or not I'm leaving Michigan, or questions about my cats. I am aware that those are questions that aren't unusual for someone to ask, I suppose. However, we have this new thing called social media where now, instead of people hearing through the grapevine that I'm doing something like that, now they can directly speak to me. My dad, for instance, I think has 30 friends on Facebook. Okay, he got into it later on in the whole Facebook happening when it started. My aunt, my dad's sister, she just got on Facebook. She pretty much just has her relatives on those phones. So I started to get on Facebook a long time ago when I didn't have when everyone was just kind of collecting friends and doing that kind of thing. And I own a business too, so I have people coming to me for my business. So I posted today that I wanted people to stop asking me about Norway, about whether or not I'm moving to Norway, whether or not I'm leaving Michigan, questions about my cats, things of that nature. Those are very difficult questions to talk about. They're very uncomfortable questions to talk about. They label me. They don't ask. They require. It's a very easy thing for someone to do, to ask me whether or not I'm moving to Norway. But it's quite a labor-intensive process for me to explain that to anyone, and I don't have time to do that. Several times I've had people who I haven't responded to on Facebook, and they get their feelings hurt if I don't respond to them or address certain questions. I could just ignore everyone. I mean, Taylor Swift, all the popular entertainers and what do you call them? Celebrities. They don't even monitor their own celebrity pages half the time, or do they have to ever respond to anybody? They just ignore everyone and make their comment. I could start doing that. So so a couple people had some problems with me saying that I wanted people to stop asking me about whether or not I'm moving to Norway or whether or not I'm leaving Michigan. Do I really need to get into the property I own in Michigan? Do I need to get into my business in Michigan? Do I need to explain that to everyone that asks me that question? I think it's perfectly fine for me to one time I made it my statement, my announcement, that I wanted people to stop asking that. Now I know perfectly well that not everyone's going to read that, and other people are going to not read that and continue to ask me that question. But at least I know that I've written it on my Facebook page and I've posted it once. And for me, that's all I need to do. Now, Mark Zuckerberg and all the other media, internet gurus, they haven't given proper instructions on how to act on Facebook. So we have to make this up on our own. People that are smart enough and want to figure things out on their own will figure out ways of answering problems that happen to them. For me, for instance, I have a problem with people asking me that. So I settle myself out when I say it once on Facebook. I've told everyone one time, stop asking me that. Someone suggested that I shouldn't post things that people are gonna, I think the problem is that people, they want to, like, some emotional thing where they feel like they want to reach out to me and ask me these loving questions. love. It seems like love can be used as this way to make anything good, anything fine. Like we can like say, we did it in a loving way. Therefore, it doesn't matter what it is I have a problem with, or it doesn't matter what the question may be. If it was done in a loving way, therefore it's perfectly logically to ask me, and I shouldn't have any problem with it because it had to do with love. And, that's fine. But these questions are difficult, and there really is no answer to them. Donald Trump has businesses all over the world. Now, does he live in those places? I'm sure Donald Trump spent several weeks in some of these places building his business, marketing himself, getting things created. He married someone from a different European country. So there's all different ways of doing things. Now, what would Donald Trump say if you asked him, did you move to Dubai, or did you move to wherever he has his hotels or whatever? And he's just one example because he's our president. But people do things all the time. They go to different places and they start businesses. So I worked really, really, really hard, made lots of sacrifices. Many dreams were shattered along the way. Some dreams are more persistent than others. It's led me here. Lots of hard work. Lots of things no one else wants to do. If anyone else had known that this was possible, I think they probably would have done what I did. But they didn't know it was possible because I thought it up, and I dreamed it, and I made it happen. So everyone wants to say, don't look to the past, look to the future. I agree, but we also need to understand the past, how things happen, just to defend ourselves and be able to tell the story of who we are and things of that nature. So when I'm here right now in Norway, building this business, doing what I've been trying to do, coming here for the last 8 years, coming to Norway, and people ask me questions. Occasionally, this particular question is a question I don't like to talk about. Now, let's say there's this rumor that goes spread. See, I've noticed that a lot of these rumors about Norway aren't true. There's lots of rumors that aren't true. And a lot of them are spread on social media. I don't know who spreads them. But there's all these notions about high taxes in Norway, and there's all this stuff, these explosive kind of topics are always talked about in the United States about Norway. For some reason, Norway is this example. I mean, there's no other country that is used as an example as much as Norway is. I'm really trying to figure out why. Many of these rumors that I've heard, they end up being not true. In fact, many of these rumors the Norwegians even know exist, and they're prepared to talk to you about how to look at things. There's not this fear that's created about Norway. So, for instance, when I go and talk about getting my residence work permit, it almost in the United States, a lot of times people make it seem like it's a very strenuous, difficult, uncomfortable process to do something like that here in Norway, but it's not really at all. But you don't hear about what it's like to do that in Poland or Ireland or anywhere else. It's just Norway for some reason. I don't know why. It has some very, I don't even want to talk about politics. So what I'm saying is there's a rumor that goes out that's spread around about Norway, and how when you come to Norway and if you become a Norwegian citizen, you have to denounce the United States or denounce whatever country you're from. I don't know if that's true or not. Would I denounce? If they need me to say that, I can say that. Does it really matter? I mean, if I say that I denounce the United States, does it really matter? You don't see people posting it on Facebook, making their denouncements of the United States or whatever. So does it really matter? I mean, if they put me in some room and some person standing there, if that's really true, because I don't even think it's true. Are they really? Does it really matter? Because I'll denounce the United States if they need me to say that to them, but I don't even think it's true. But what does it really mean if I denounce the United States or not? So if I say on Facebook that I don't want to talk about where I live, or whether or not I'm moving, or whether or not, or what's happening to the cats, which, do you really want to know the whole story about those cats? Do you really want to know about that story about the cats? Because I can sit here and tell you guys the whole story about the cats. And not only will that upset people in my home, it'll just be upsetting. So I don't. These are the things that And then if I ignore the people that are asking me these questions on Facebook, if I ignore them, some of them will probably think I'm upset at them or something. So you're damned if you do, or you're damned if you don't. So what I try to do is I try to post it on Facebook why I have a problem with something, why I would prefer something not to be said. Just like if you have a boyfriend who does something that you don't like, I mean, do you not tell him about that? Do you not tell him that you don't like something so that he doesn't do it? That's what you do when you have children. That's just what you do. So there's no, if you want things a certain way. So whatever happened to the reality of wanting things a certain way in your life, and that's what you thought, wherever we lost that, or I don't think we've really lost it. I just don't think very many people get in a situation where they actually end up having a at least I'm not conversing with them on Facebook, but I'm sure every husband and wife, every parent, every coworker has times where they have to tell someone, don't do something, and you don't do it. Doesn't matter if social media is social, therefore anything goes. Well, if anything goes, then I can tell someone something I don't like that either. So it really was I thought it was a harmless comment that I made this morning about how I just would prefer stop asking me about whether or not I'm moving to Norway, and stop asking me about whether or not I'm leaving Michigan, and stop asking me about my cats. I mean, it was a benign comment. So 4 or 5 people out of my 3,000 or out of my 2,089 people, 4 or 5 people wanted to tell me to be careful. One person defriended me. I mean, are you kidding me? Because I didn't want people asking me that question. That's ridiculous. I'm not. This is my own Facebook page. So I just want to say. I don't feel like being boxed in any corner. I feel very loyal to my life and what it is I'm doing. I'm not judging anyone else's loyalty to anything. My grandfather is from Norway. We have proud Irish. We have proud Germans. We have proud Norwegians. We have proud Russians. We have proud everything. So America is a very new thing where all these people are coming, and it's being formed and shaped, and people are going to figure out what they feel like being loyal to. I mean, maybe they want to be loyal to their local dog club. I don't know, but I want to be loyal to Norway, and I want to, I'm an American. So I mean, what can you? Do we really need to have everything labeled perfectly? So I think it's best not to label things. I think when you label things, it closes doors. Because when you label something, again, this is where the English language is very poor. When you label something, it forms this collective idea of what that label means. So when you label me as being a Norwegian, you're closing many doors. Not for me, but for you, because now you're looking at me as one thing. And when you do that, the creative pipeline that exists between people, between your community members, between friends, between relatives. When you label something, you close a creative pipeline that exists there. It becomes this expectation of what you think it is. It becomes this preconceived notion of what it is. And, it's not. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's good for anything to label something. I mean, like I said, I'll do if the country of Norway needed me to denounce my homeland, which I don't think exists. Sigrun, I've said this many, many times. My grandpa lived in both too. See, Sigrun, when you jump into thanks. When you jump into a conversation and you don't hear the first part of everything I spoke about, then you're just jumping into the conversation. Again, this is where social media fails up miserably. But I've said this over and over and over again. My grandfather was a proud American and a proud Norwegian. Okay, he didn't call any place home necessarily. So when I was saying earlier on Facebook how I don't want to label what it is I'm doing in that term. I don't want to label me as being moving here or leaving Michigan, or whether or not I want to talk about what are happening to my cats. Those are things that I don't feel comfortable talking about. It's upsetting to think about it that way because in my mind, moving is a very concrete, very permanent thing. It's a very said and done thing. That's in my mind and how I learned of the word moving or living. That's how I was taught to think. So this is why the English language is very poor because other people maybe they moved all the time in their life. So for them, the word moving is like very fluid, very lucid. It doesn't mean very much. It's an easy thing for them to slip out their lips and say, "Oh, I'm moving here. This is where I live now." See, for me, I lived in one place my entire life. My roots are there. Maybe that's because I'm like a second generation thing. Maybe as the generations kind of go down in America, you kind of like lose sense of like any sense of place. But for me, sense of place, sense of where I am is very important to me. So when I lose that, when I start thinking of myself as moving here permanently, or I don't like it. It makes me like I said, I feel like it closes doors. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. So I got to get back to work here, but after 4 people had a problem with me expressing that, I found that very odd and very weird. To be honest with you, I'm sorry if I didn't say please or if I didn't say. I don't know. I just typed it out this morning because, I'm not going to get into it, but some people got upset in the family, wondering what was happening with something with the cats and stuff, and I don't need that. I'm trying to have a life here. I'm not trying to like coddle 2 cats that they weren't even mine. I mean, come on now. Do I need to explain to everybody? Like, I don't. And many people will say I don't need to explain anything at all. And I agree with that, too. But there's a balance. You have to make sure some people, you don't, like, completely, like, close the doors on. And, some people are just, everyone's different. But that's all I got to say. Thanks for listening. Again, I'm not going to say I'm moving or anything. So I'm in Norway. This is where I'm living. It's quite obviously the case. This is what I'm doing. I'm buying a building. You see it. Isn't that enough? So enjoy what you see and let your own imagination come up with what it is I'm doing and planning on doing. That will help me a lot more than for me to tell you what it is I'm doing in one word.